Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Redmen TV. And yeah, we're going to talk about Liverpool winning again. Getting used to this. I could definitely continue to get used to it, though. 1-0 away from home against Girona. Let's not, over-romanticise what we've just watched. Wasn't the greatest, most enthralling game of footy I've ever seen in my life. It was good. There was definitely elements of it that was very good. But listen, job done. Professional, clean sheet, another win, 6 out of 6, 18 out of 18 points. Yeah, we move on. Arne Slot Reds keep on rolling, baby. And it's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it. And it's nice to see. And yeah, this is the part of the night where we talk about it and you have your say and I deliberate, have conversations and we all have our opinion, which is nice. So let's do that, shall we? Joan Alaviso kicks us off with clean sheet for Alisson. Gotta love that he's back. And yeah, he was back and he was really back. And he was back and he was busy in the first half. Thrown in, the deep end might be a little bit overboard for my sake, but yeah, he was called upon a lot. And Girona, to their credit, let's get that out there early doors in this particular part of the show. Girona were brilliant. They were very resolute defensively. They came with a plan. And when they had a go, they had a go. It was a little bit Nottingham Forest-esque at times when they really did sort of camp all 11 men in their final third and say, go on then, break us down if you can, and defended the edge of the box particularly well. So credit to them for all of that. But when they attacked with numbers and they attacked with proper sort of dynamism and they attacked with purpose and intent. And they caused us problems. And 3 or 4 times in the first half, we really relied upon Alisson Becker to keep us in it. There's one, that Asprilla effort from range is a hell of an effort. And you'd back Alisson to save that 99 times out of 100. And he does, of course. The only surprise was he didn't catch it, to be honest. But yeah, some other keepers, not naming names necessarily around the Premier League, none that we own, might have struggled in that first half in 1 or 2 of the efforts, but Alisson Becker is Alisson Becker and dealt with them superbly well. There was the one where Daley Blind gets in behind and he miskicks it basically, and thankfully Alisson wasn't required at that point because maybe even he couldn't have saved that because ultimately he is just a human being. But he was, this really, Jerome. We are truly blessed, truly blessed in goal in every single way. And yeah, thankfully Alisson Becker picked up where he left off, which was nice to see. Good to have him back. I mentioned before we went live with the actual sort of match earlier on that it would be nice, a bit of a confidence boost really, not that he really needs it, but for the whole back line, especially with Alisson coming back, it sort of breathes some confidence into them. And yeah, I feel like it's a real sort of positive footing to set off from if you come back in and you get a clean sheet first game, especially away in Europe, because again, Girona were really good. We did look a little bit vulnerable at times, certainly on the counter in those transitions. But to get a clean sheet anywhere, particularly in a game like this tonight is really impressive. And yeah, I'm pleased about that. Liverpool generally, maybe not so much. Ibrahim, it was hard to watch, most importantly 3 points, but hope we don't see this again. Can't really say we look good, but honestly we won, so it's better against Fulham. Yeah, I think it'll be better against Fulham. I think this chat. I think we will be. It actually looked like, and I know we've not been we haven't had an international break or we haven't been bereft of football for weeks and weeks and weeks on end or anything like that. So I'm not going to sit here and say we were rusty or we need to sort of get back into the rhythm of playing footy again. But there were definitely moments of that in the first half. And whilst I do credit our opponents with a lot of what made life difficult for us, certainly in the first half was very end-to-end. It was a little bit chaotic. It was a very even game, actually. I felt like, although, we can talk about the Joe Gomez, this is a game whereby you're not going to tell your grandkids about it, but you nearly did because Joe Gomez nearly scored. And all the abuse I was giving Scarface pre-match nearly came back to bite me on the arse. But I feel like Girona were more than good value for being level. Maybe it could have been a 1-1 or perhaps at a stretch even a 2-2, but they were definitely, worthy to be... it is the Dan Love out. Worthy to be at least all square at the break, so credit to them for that. But second half, I felt like we really took control, and the things that they were stopping us doing, as in cutting off our ability to pass through them, and just like I say, not allowing us to play, really. That got negated more in the second half when we took more of a stranglehold in the game. And then once we went 1-0 up, they never really mustered anything in the way of a flurry of chances. They had moments here and there. But yeah, we really did take control of the game then. And Girona tried. They brought on subs. They brought on Christian Stabani, who's still playing footy, by the way. But yeah, it was what's becoming a very typical vintage Liverpool performance. And I'm here for it. Not frills and spills necessarily, but very professional, very calm, very controlled, very measured. And yeah, I like that. Luis Diaz was he was in the thick of the action, wasn't he, tonight? Cop-Out TV is desperate to speak about Darwin Nunez. We can speak about Darwin Nunez if you want. I'm happy to do so. He missed that one-on-one tonight. There's that mad header. Dom Szoboszlai, it's actually a counter from us. We counter on Girona for once. Dom Szoboszlai picks him out at the back post with a very high looping ball. And I'm not sure what Darwin is thinking, really, because it feels like we could direct the header goalwards. Is he in two minds? Because he ends up trying to sort of lay it back into the path of one of the other attackers in that moment, but he gets his head all wrong and just kind of nods it into the ground a little bit. It's a really odd look. And when the knives are out for Darwin a little bit, which clearly they are, let's be honest. I mean, I'm literally just looking at this comment right here. And this is a good point about Diogo Jota, and I'll come on to that in more detail in a moment. But Tom Mooney says, do we need to sell Darwin? People are saying that, and I'm not going to sort of push back against that too much because it's definitely a conversation. We had a little bit of it earlier on. And then he misses a big chance, what felt like 2 minutes later. Gazaniga does save well, down low with his feet. But yeah, I felt like Darwin needed a performance, and ideally a performance that contained a goal or two tonight, and it never materialised. And if anything, we're coming away from that game with more questions and answers about Darwin Nunez. And it feels like we're saying that all too often. Theo Murphy says, unfortunately gone past the time of he'll come good. Quite possibly. Dave links him to Atletico Madrid here. It's something I could see. I think Diego Simeone would love having Darwin Nunez, to be honest, for what it's worth. But yeah, this is kind of the point I was going to make a minute ago, actually, on this topic while we're on it. We won't spend too long dwelling on it, but I felt like with Jota being back, or being nearly back, it should be, a firework up the arse of Darwin Nunez. And that's not to say he doesn't do all the tracking back and all the hard work, because he absolutely does. But he should have been looking at that going, okay, I really need to, knuckle down and actually deliver tonight. And he hasn't. And the cries and the angst towards him as a footballer won't diminish based on what we've seen tonight. Maybe they should, and I kind of wish they would, because they're all pulling in the right direction, and it's the same direction. And it's the direction to hopefully take Liverpool to titles. But he is our centre-forward, and he plays a lot of football for us, and he does miss too many chances. And thankfully, once again, it doesn't bite us on the arse tonight. But listen, it's definitely a conversation. It definitely is a conversation, and one that may well need addressing in the not too distant future. Rob Davis says, good professional performance away from home. We'll never walk alone. And yeah, that kind of sums up the entire game. Really, to be honest, that's pretty much all it was. It was far from vintage. It was far from anything we'll talk about, let alone in a year's time, probably in a week's time, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's job done. Move on to the next one. And it actually allowed us maybe 20 minutes of a far more straightforward night than it could have been. And we even got Harvey Elliott onto the pitch, which I thought was nice. Taro Endo comes on right in the dying embers. Obviously, Cody Gakpo as well. Would have been nice to give Trent some time off, potentially doing something there at the back, but wasn't to be. Hopefully, he was just ready for 90 minutes by this point. Sayan Roy asked, does being the top one give us a better season than being 8th? Yes, it does. This works as a massive sort of pile of seeds, which absolutely is not a thing. But yeah, the higher you are, the lower opponent you will face. So yeah, I think, listen, this Champions League is it's a mess. Until I understand it, I probably need to see the whole thing once to actually fully understand it. But as far as I'm aware, that is true. And yes, winning the whole thing will be better for us in the long run, which is good. Having said that, there is a lot of me that thinks that Lille and PSV game could well see us rotate. Not heavily. I'm not talking like the under-21s will play or anything like that. But it wouldn't shock me at all if there were some wholesale changes made, depending on what's going on in the league and what's going on in the cups by that point as well, and sort of how the fixtures in the round it fall. which I don't have to hand right now. Chana says, still a bit to play for being number one. So, yeah, let's just talk about that. There is a bit to play for, but I don't know. Lille and PSV, with all due respect, I feel like if let's say we made 2 or 3 changes to that lineup tonight, and bear in mind those changes could be Conor Bradley comes in, Diogo Jota comes in, who else was missing? Alexis McAllister could be available by that point. You got Tyler Morton, Harvey Elliott as well. We're not talking like, again, Trey Naoni's brilliant, by the way. He's a wonderfully gifted footballer, but I'm not talking suddenly you have to start him at Lille. You're just smart with your squad and your rotation and stuff. And I think we've afforded ourselves the buffer and the cushion with which to do that, which is nice. Bolden says, feels a bit disrespectful to put Endo on for the 1-2 minutes plus at a time. I can see him gone in the summer. Yeah, I tend to agree, to be honest with you. Adam Harrison goes completely against what I would say. I would play the under-9s in our next 2 Champions League matches. I'd still like to win the entire thing. I'd like to go unbeaten, stroke win every game, to be honest. We're 6 from 6 now, like I mentioned before. But yeah, listen, there's definitely scope to do some stuff, and this could well be it. Listen, I'm fascinated by what happens with Jadon Danns, to be honest, when it comes to January, because he was nearly left on loan. They went to Plymouth during the summer, during Wayne Rooney down there, of course, which would have been good and bad at the same time, I think. Learning off a brilliant goal scorer, brilliant footballer, Wayne Rooney. But yeah, he's back playing now, which is the main thing for Jadon. But it's whether Liverpool keep hold of him for the entire season and just have him in the 21s and maybe in around the first team a little bit to look after him and nurture him because they're very protective over the young players, or they feel like he is fine and he can go and play senior football somewhere else. And Nigel says the boys done good at the Estadi Municipal de Montelivi. Job done. Yeah. It is, ultimately. I'm not going to, again, we can't overhype or sort of over-exaggerate what that performance was. I think it was a decent, relatively clinical performance. Somebody a moment ago makes the point we're not clinical enough, and I tend to agree with that. We probably could have been out of sight far earlier than we were. Having said that, Girona will feel, and I think Michel, the manager, felt a bit aggrieved that they weren't better and they weren't sharper and they weren't more clinical against us, to be honest. So, yeah, I think both teams will feel like they weren't quite at it for whatever reason tonight. And Girona might see that as a slight missed opportunity to cause a bloody nose. For us, it was a banana skin. It was a tricky European away tie in quite strange surroundings in terms of the actual stature of the ground. I'm not going to go as far as to say it was like FA Cup third round away from home vibes, because it wasn't. That would be doing them a disservice when it comes to the stadium, I mean. But it wasn't what we were accustomed to either, so it had potential to cause problems. And I think for a large part of the first half, it did, to be honest. Adam Harrison. Dan, the priority is league, and it could be done by then, done by March, sorry, then focus on winning Champions League. Am I getting carried away? Absolutely. Yes, I believe you might be getting carried away, my friends. But listen, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm not that guy. But yeah, credit to you. I am going to keep my powder dry for now on just exactly what we're about to do. Nigel, however, is not going to do that. He wants 3 trophies. Which 3, Nigel? Tell me which 3. I'm going to hazard a guess that the Champions League and the Premier League are 2 of them. What's the 3rd? Yeah, FA Cup, ultimately, probably the answer. Would I buy Marmouche in January or wait until the summer and get Jonathan David for free plus another? I like Jonathan David, Canadian striker. I quite like the idea of him as a Canadian as well. Thank you, Quadbot. I did see your comment and read it a few times in my head just to make myself feel warm and fuzzy inside. Thanks, though. It's much appreciated, as ever, as all of you guys are. Would I do that? I would. Listen, I've sort of skirted around this conversation about 5 times tonight, it feels like, and I'm going to do it again right now, so hold your horses. I genuinely believe there's a huge centre-forward conversation coming at Liverpool Football Club. I really, really do. And I like both Diogo Jota and Darwin Nunez for different reasons, but I honestly believe there's something sort of brewing there, potentially. However, I don't think it's a January conversation. I don't see what good that does you. Ultimately, the answer to that question would be it gets you more goals and potentially fires you to winning all 4 trophies that you're in. But I don't know, in terms of the harmony and in terms of the squad unity and in terms of the cause, I don't know whether saying to one of the strikers we have, thanks for everything, but you're not the guy anymore. We're going to go and spend 60, 70 million on Gyökeres or Mamouche or whoever. I think we go with our lot. I'd like us to sign in January, by the way. Maybe another defender and definitely another midfielder. I feel like we do need someone in that department personally. But I don't know what use it is really to sort of upset the apple cart when it comes to the centre forward department. I might be being a bit kind to them there because I do like them both. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. Feel free to hate me instantly for that because, that's what this is all about. Echo Sims says Canadians are for the radar. Jonathan David, of course. Alphonso Davis. I think he might be Real Madrid bound personally. I don't know how to say that name. Estuquio. Estu could be a solid Grav backup. I'm going to take a look at that guy. That's one for the transfer notebook, that is. Okay, I'll take your word for it for now. I need to know more. This quad bod we do, and the guy, as previously mentioned, could well be the answer to that. I think we do need that person. Personally, I like it to be Carlos Belieber, actually, at Brighton, to be fair. I think he's a hell of a player. And we know what Brighton do with their footballers. You're best off just basically waiting to see who Brighton are linked with and then just signing him instead, because more often than not, they tend to be absolute gems, often unearthed until Brighton come along. But yeah, Adam Wharton falls into that category a little bit. Obviously, Martin Zubimendi remains in that category. I think we might face competition for Man City for him. But in terms of the profile of player, I do think we need that. Because, again, to come back to a point made earlier, Endo clearly isn't that guy. He's not that guy stylistically, ultimately. And I'd keep with Endo to the end of the season. I would allow Tyler Morton to leave on loan to go play football, basically, and sign one to sort of add and bolster those ranks, but he would immediately jump above Endo in the pecking order because, again, the type of player that he is would be more akin to what Arne Slot's trying to do and what he's been doing pretty fucking successfully with Ryan Gravenberch, I must add as well. Sound, let's dive into Twitter for a couple of minutes, shall we? Phil Kennedy says, we controlled that half, meaning the second half, which is why it wasn't so chaotic. Job done. Yeah, I tend to agree. It was very chaotic first half. This final 20-odd minutes were pretty much a non-event, and that is credit to Liverpool. Like, you go 1-0 up away in Europe against any side, I don't care who they are, or what they've done, or what their pedigree is, or what their history is. To go 1-0 up away in Europe, and to more or less shut a game down and not give your opponent a sniff, that speaks volumes of where your squad is at, personally. Pastor Nom. I always like reading Pastor Nom's comments. If you're here ever, Pastor Nom on YouTube, I'm not sure you are, please know that I do read your Twitter comments quite a lot because you're quite active on there in the best possible way. Don't think Arne looked pleased with that, and rightly so. Got the winning clean sheet, so I'm happy. But overall, the performance took too much out of our players when it should have been made easier against a pretty average team. Still time, but got to up those away performance levels. Yeah, again, I think we were somewhat vulnerable, and maybe, I don't know whether I am doing a disservice to Girona or giving them too much credit in the same time, because I don't know whether our level was slightly off it and we were below par, which allowed Girona to look better, or Girona were good. It's a difficult one to sort of weigh up. But I was impressed by them, actually, sort of tactically, in terms of their structure, in terms of the way they went about it, and in terms of some of their individual quality as well. I thought Asprilla looked really threatening. I thought he looked really lively. Oriol Romeo's always been a good player, hasn't he? He's a bit of a dog in midfield sometimes, but I actually quite like him. I think he's good. I think he's very strong. He holds off players really, really well. He didn't really fall for the Gravenberch half turn, which not a lot of players can say that this season. So yeah, I thought they were decent. I thought Danjuma was actually relatively lively until it came to actually shooting, because that was fucking hideous. Maybe that's why I'm not on TNT for Steve McManaman, because of my potty mouth. But yeah, I thought the Girona were decent. I thought they were decent. I thought the left back looked lively. Miguel Gutierrez, I think I'm right in saying. Gazaniga was decent in goal. Listen, it's basically a former Premier League 11, ultimately. So Brian Hill, I thought, was okay. He wasn't cut out for the Premier League for lots of different reasons, but technically a very talented footballer. They've got a lot of them. And a lot of them don't get moved to the clubs they've had moved to in the past without having ability. It just didn't work out in the Premier League for whatever reason. And I think you're seeing that tonight a little bit, because when we did, again, get the ascendancy of the game, they never really got a sniff. So we're better than them. But, yeah, it wasn't straightforward. They did what they had to do, Dazzler. They did what they had to do, my friend. So you say that, right? It's still busy, man. It's still busy, you know. I've been waiting for the day. With this, by the way, Quad Pod, I've certainly the Forest one. I made the point earlier on. I've been waiting for the day Blue Sky just took over the world, but I don't know. Don't write it off. Yeah, I thought Girona did use a bit of the blueprint of what had sort of stifled us previously. And why not? If it's there, if it exists, then you would be stupid not to, ultimately, wouldn't you? So, yeah, I was all right. I was all right with him. Jerome says, Girona have been poor this season. We opened up too much and lack of intensity, which gave them a lot of space. Yeah, was Asprilla at Brighton, where do we know him from? No, I think you're thinking of the former Asprilla who played for Newcastle United. I don't think he's been at Brighton. I'm happy to be put wrong on that, more than happy, but I think you're thinking of Asprilla from years gone by. That's why you're familiar with the name, to be honest with you. Last couple of comments now before I wrap up, and we head over to the Player Ranking Show, which I say this every time I'm here, but please join me for that, because this bit is quite important that you're here to talk to me, but for the next bit, it's absolutely pivotal that you're here to talk to me. Otherwise, I'm just a man stood at a board with loads of players' faces behind me, and it doesn't make any sense. So please come and join me at the Player Rankings board, because otherwise it's going to be a farce, a proper farce. So yeah, do that. Makes you think about how much Klopp played Endo last year and Slot completed. I think it's just different types of six and sort of different requirements in the role person. I'm not sure it's like because there's things that I don't quite believe I'm about to say this, but there are things that Wataru Endo can do that Ryan Gravenberch probably can't do quite as well, in a way. I'm not entirely sure. No, there are some of them. I'm not going to talk dirty on Endo. It's not my style. And at the same time, there's lots of things that Ryan Gravenberch can do that Wataru Endo can't do, and hence, but Arne Slot just likes more of these things, and Klopp maybe liked a few more of them. I don't think we would have ever seen Ryan Gravenberch in the out-and-out 6 firefighter destroyer type that Jurgen Klopp used. Like Fabinho was that guy. Gravenberch has some of those traits and some of those attributes and some of that ability, but I'm not convinced by it. Whereas Wataru Endo was, Klopp loved him. Like, he loved him for the minute he walked in the door. Like, literally, he said that we needed you. We need some defensive solidity. And clearly, he didn't think that Gravenberch struggled. He didn't think he had that capability. Adam Harris, I used to do a struggle, because he said Joey G struggled for me. Yeah, maybe. Belieber in Delap in the summer, says Jeffrey. I like Liam Delap. I'm not quite sure why City let him go, to be honest with you. He'd have been a very, very handy backup to Erling Haaland, I would say. And if Ipswich go down, I don't think Delap sticks around for much longer. I think he's a Premier League footballer, personally. So yeah, sound. Let's start to wrap up then. Well, people are talking about who played better, and that's not for the show. So let's just wait. Let's just hold our horses momentarily. Eliza says Gravenberch just needed a good pre-season and preparation. Yeah, I think, and maybe some backing, because as much as, we all adored Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp clearly identified Gravenberch as a player he wanted, because he sought after him, touted him for about 24 months before we actually ended up signing him back in his Ajax days. But I don't think he wanted him for the skill set that we're necessarily seeing him now. Maybe a little bit, but certainly not the position, certainly not the role. But in terms of what he had as a footballer, I think that's been evident for a while. But he never really found a home in Klopp's system last season. He never really got up to speed with anything last season. Maybe it was just a new year in the Premier League, and the lack of minutes he played the year before at Bayern Munich might have hindered him and held him back a little bit as well. But we are seeing the very best version of Ryan Gravenberch right now, and I am here for it. Javi says, did we purposely take the foot off the gas though, or save energy, or we just off it? That's a good question. I think we had gears to go through, I would say, and I'm not sure we really activated all of them. I think we were relatively comfortable throughout. Alisson Becker would probably argue otherwise. But I feel like sort of once we took control, again, once we went 1-0 up and Salah obviously did what Salah does from the penalty spot. Do you think it's a penalty, by the way? Let's just deal with that momentarily before I do go. Once we took the lead, we did just keep Girona at arm's length then. And again, they had moments. They had forays into our final third, which got a little bit worrying. But aside from that, we were pretty pretty measured, pretty confident. Stevie G, I like that name, obviously. And bad on that, Salah's now got as many penalty goals in the Champions League as Steven Gerrard, and 50 in the Champions League full stop. He got 6 penalties and 50, and he's one behind Billy Liddell in the all-time record scorers list. Jesus. Okay, we've got no pen from Adam Harrison, nailed on pen from Quadbod, and I would be fuming if that went against us. I'll be honest with you, I'd be fuming if that went against us as well. Fuming. I didn't see it getting given. Dazza said it was a pen. Harry said it was soft. I didn't see him getting given at all. I didn't envisage the ref walking over to the monitor and giving that whatsoever. But hey, we move. Job done. We move. And speaking of moving, I'm going to move over to that board now, because that was the match reaction chat done. Listen. Liverpool won. We won 1-0. Was it spectacular? Not really. Was it enthralling? At times. But ultimately, who gives a shit? Because we are on again. We are off again. We got the last time we dropped points out of our system. We didn't play the weekends. It was a little bit rusty at times, but we won and we move on. And we move on to Fulham. Come and join me for the next bit, because the next bit's the best bit, which rhymes as well, which is fucking brilliant. No, do come and join me. Honestly, I said it a minute ago, because this next bit of the show is rendered absolutely fucking ridiculous if you're not with me. So make sure you come along for the ride. I'll see you there. Bye for now.